Welcome to Childcare Conversations, the podcast where early childhood leaders like you get real-world strategies, honest talk, and a whole lot of support. Whether you're running one center or many, we're here to help you lead with confidence and clarity. This episode is brought to you by this quarter's sponsor, Playground, the all-in-one childcare management software. We're all about managing monkeys and saving you time at your center. With this platform, you can. We're proud to partner with a team that's as committed to your success as we are. Learn more at tryplayground.com. Now, let's get into today's conversation, one we think you're really going to love.
Welcome back. We are so glad that you're joining us today. And today we have Crystal Campbell, who is the president of SICA, which is the Southern Early Childhood Association. And we are so excited to have her join us. And she's going to tell us a little bit about how she ended up in early child care education. And we have got some fun stuff to talk about, or at least hopefully some stuff that will get you thinking about what you can do now to maybe prevent things in your community that might have happened over the last 6 to 8 weeks. So with that, Crystal, tell us a little bit about how you ended up in early child care and what we might need to know about you for this conversation.
Well, Kate, thank you so much for the opportunity to be on the podcast. This is my second one ever in my entire life. So if I mess up, it's because I just don't know. But I am who I am, and I love what I do. And I love talking about it, and I love new learning. So just to give you a little bit of background, I have done many things in education, particularly with early childhood. And I retired back in 2011. And at that point, it gave me the opportunity to try a lot of different things that I used to read about, with CCR&R being one of them. I did that for a little while. And then I did Head Start. Actually was their education specialist in our area. Here in Moncks Corner, the Dorchester, Berkeley, Charleston area of South Carolina. And I did that and then got the wonderful opportunity to become the executive director for a nonprofit called First Steps. And I run the Dorchester County First Steps because we have one in every county in the state. And the purpose behind
that state is
South Carolina.
Just in case somebody didn't catch that, just want to make sure.
Yes, this is the state of South Carolina. And we all all the EDs work toward building up and supporting each community. And each community, even though we're in South Carolina and there are 46 communities, 46 counties, every last one of them is different. We cannot go in and do exactly the same thing. So my county is Dorchester. And the unique thing about Dorchester is that there's a lot of retired inheritance kind of wealth in the area. And it's a vast area. The upper end has an average income, according to statistics, of about $56,000. And the bottom end has an income about $92,000. Either one you can live on average, right? But we have these pockets of need all around, and for varying reasons. We have wonderful resources in our area, the Volvo and the Bosch and all the other kinds of those kinds of industry, but yet we have childcare deserts. And that's where my focus is in helping. I feel that it's important that Dorchester County First Steps gives back to the community and supports the community, lifts the community up. And so 98% of my budget goes toward doing those kinds of things.
I love that.
There's a variety of them, okay? I could spend the whole time talking about all we do. With a little bit of budget.
Well, I think what's great the timing of having you on this episode is awesome. As we were talking kind of before we started to hit the record button, is there's been a lot that's happened in the last 8 weeks. And just kind of like what happened 5.5 years ago, right? When everybody started to panic, or everybody really did panic over COVID. But we came out of COVID with reminding ourselves that we need to build our own reserves as companies, as organizations, as childcare centers. But now we have a whole other situation that we have to make sure that, I don't know, maybe we don't have to. I would like to think we'd all want to.
Right.
How can we prevent this from having the impact it had in our community in the future? So let's hope we don't have this level of shutdown that trickled in every direction, that hit all of our families, especially those families that really do need that early quality childcare, and they don't have other ways to get it. So what are your thoughts?
Well, you, Kate, you should never
I know
ask
I
me
opened
that.
a can of worms
That's
here.
just my main thought would be that we need to revamp the whole situation and fix it so it's more child friendly. And that we really truly have the best interests of the children in our world in mind. Because if we did, then the families that have children, those that don't, we still gonna take care of you. But those that have children would have opportunities to do what they feel they need to do that's best for their family. And sometimes, and I feel like I use my hands a lot. Sometimes it
That
is
is okay. There's a reason. You can don't do this. You look so uncomfortable.
one of the things that stands out is, for me, I work a lot with childcare providers and in the childcare system. And this is even before the issues that are happening now with the SNAP benefits and all the things that are going awry now for our families. But I had childcare providers who were working in centers who couldn't afford to put their own child into that center.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And all of our centers are either chains or they're independently owned. And there's a struggle. The cost for taking care of an infant, I promise you, is sometimes the mortgage for some
Mm-hmm.
of our families. Okay. That was already happening. During COVID, because you mentioned COVID, during COVID, we had several centers shut down and never reopened. Okay. We did also find out that we were essential, as everyone else did during that time period. Like, aha, duh. If we don't have quality childcare, your worker may not be able to come to work that day because they got to take care of their child. And if they don't take care of their child, then somebody's going to report them to DSS. DSS is going to try to come take their child. So you know what? They're going to stay home and take care of their child. And now they have no income.
Well, and as an employer, you now have no staff, right?
There you go.
And so where here we had a similar kind of quandary over the last month or so, where we had people who were willing to work, people who could work, people who wanted to go to work, but for whatever reason didn't happen, right? This can be the same thing happens when you have a major employer that shuts down a manufacturing plant, moves a manufacturing plant. The industry totally changes. Those who've listened know that Carrie and I worked in a program. Carrie took it over for a landlord. The landlord actually called Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
And after we got in there and we realized what happened is the major employer in the community left, but the child care center didn't change. And so hopefully the child care centers who were impacted over the last couple of months had already had a reserve where they were going to be okay if some families had to basically take some time off, right? Like they couldn't afford to send their kid. You couldn't afford to pay for staff if their money wasn't coming in, right? Like there's all those bits and pieces.
Mm-hmm.
If you are in a community where you have a lot of Department of Defense contractors, so not necessarily military folks, but the contractors who weren't getting paid, you may have also had families that are like, hey, my spouse has been furloughed, and so my kid's going to
There you
stay there
go.
for a while, right? And so all of a sudden, as a childcare center, you got like 5 kids showing up and only 5 kids paying, but you still got 10 staff. And that puts you in an awkward position. And so you might have
Mhm.
also done a layoff, even if it's just for a few weeks. Give yourself that breathing room. I know it's hard, but now's the time after we have excuse my French, an oh shit. Now's the time to figure out how do we get prepared for the next time we have an oh shit. So, what are some things that childcare owners, directors, people in the community who are passionate about children, what can they do to kind of prep for the next oh crud?
And that's a tricky thing because the first thought would be to get financial reserves. That's the first. However, that looks like for your community. Now that doesn't mean necessarily taxing the families extra, but we've got to find a way to balance employees, the needs, the family, and make it the amount doable. So maybe X number of dollars go into a pot where we hold it and that kind of thing. Another thing, and I don't know if every state does this, but this is what's near and dear to my heart. Here in South Carolina, the Department of Social Services has made an agreement with, now they already had some that they would give and they called them vouchers, but we have a special agreement with the Department of Social Services through First Steps, where we can get what we call scholarships now for our families. It's a win-win all the way around because the families get child care coverage financially, and the child care is guaranteed their funding. You
So
don't
is
have
that
to work.
so in South Carolina, is that part of your child care development block grant, or is that a state funded initiative?
That's a state-funded initiative, but I think it may have some federal pieces to it. I never got into that. I just wanted the money.
Well, so, but here's the thing, and this is why I'm asking, because there are some states that had not been very good with their child care development block grant funds. And so during this 8-week period, they could not pay those reserves. So one of the things that I'm going to suggest, if anybody's listening, is make sure you don't have all your eggs in one basket.
One basket,
Right?
definitely.
Diversify your families. I
Mhm.
know that we have programs that absolutely love to serve a specific population. And in some states, you actually make more money on the voucher program than you do if you're on cash pay. So, not every state's going to be the same. Not every program's going to be the same, but really think about who is the makeup of your client base. If they're vouchers, are they one kind of voucher? Okay. So some states might have some state funding, might have some federal funding. The county that I live in right now, actually, because the wait list is over 100,000 kids in the state of Texas waiting for this voucher, this exact same, what you were talking about, voucher dollars. And our county said, we can't match we can't do anything about 100,000, but we can and will contribute enough to cover. It's like 1,000 kids. Like, it's a significant amount for a county. And, Texas has over 260 counties. So, you got 46, Ohio's got 88. In Texas, well, we Texas.
You
So,
just
we'll just leave it at that, right? So we got a whole bunch of counties, and one county definitely stepped up and said, "Hey, we're going to do our part, at least on the county level." So, can you get some self-pay? We were talking with some programs in Indiana, and they've actually started to go out to the employers and said, "Hey, some of these families have just lost, their school age care went to $1, is what the block grant funds from the state." They said, "Oh, we'll reimburse you $1 a month." So now they're going out to private sector. So they're on their own, grassroots, building these private public partnerships. How can organizations like SICA, members of SICA, what can we do? How can we all come together and be there to support the programs in advance?
and that's the crux, because now, and Kate, it's a two-edged sword. SICA's desire, because, we're a grassroots organization. So we're
Exactly.
down there in the trenches with the childcare. We've watched the childcare. We are doing what needs to happen within the childcare system itself. But I got to tell you, when it gets like that, we run into every state is different. Every state is different, and every state can't do what the other state can do. So everybody's got to be creative. And although SICA has this desire, the only thing I could think of is if we could have had reserve ourselves, if we could have been one of those resources that states could reach to, look to, or childcare providers could look to and maybe get a little bonus, get a little bit of extra help financially and that kind of thing. But then we run into another problem. And I'm going to throw this one out there. After COVID, everybody thought that they could be an influencer and they could be on TikTok and they could be on all that other stuff that they do technology wise, right? And so we don't have any workers. We talk about the fact that, we need to pay our employees. Well, we've got employees, and I've had it happen recently. We've had employees that come on board, they last a week, and then they're going to say, oh, the baby cried too much.
But
And
you know
it
what?
goes back to
That's where, okay, so this is where I'm gonna poke maybe a little SICA bear. Okay.
Gotcha.
So one of the things that a lot of the members in SICA are part of the education programs, right? So we've got a lot
Right.
of folks in SICA who are university professors. They're the ones planning and figuring things out. I'm going to stress that more of them figure out, especially when you are training in master's degrees or administrative classes, get in there and help your students really understand the dollars and cents.
Right.
Because Carrie and I have really tried hard over the last 3 years to find what we would call business classes in early childcare, so that if you're getting a master's degree in what is considered ECA administration,
Right.
you actually understand the business piece.
That's
And
what we do in our area. We train them. Have you seen this?
Yep.
We use the PAS administration scale, the program administration scale, as if you will, in order to help them understand what the business. We also do the BAS, and to understand the business part,
Yep.
because
But not everybody does. I mean,
no,
so that's why I'm poking at the professors, because we literally have talked to hundreds of professors over the course of the last 4 years, trying to find what classes exist. And, we ran into one university. They're like, we'd love to teach the class, but we don't have the book. Well, we helped them. We solved that problem. So now they got a class starting in January. So
wonderful.
yeah. So Charter Oak State College actually is bringing back their business administration class. And we know that there are more and more universities trying to get there. But I think that's one thing that we have to remember. We can love the children. We can spend hundreds of hours with
That's what you got.
CDAs and other programs training quality teachers. But if we don't help those who end up owning the program, or even those who end up in legislation, because we all know that our legislators don't know how to balance a budget either, right? That's how we got here. So, and there's that on the federal level, and then there's a whole lot of states where people don't know that, if you put $2 in, you can't take $3 out. That's never going to math right. And so our small, medium, large size businesses, because we have folks who go, oh, I just have a small child care center. And you're like, well, how many kids you take care of? And they're like 100. I mean, have you done the math on that, folks? 100 kids, which means if you got 100 kids, what do you think? Is that probably 80 families? What would you guess, Crystal? 80?
I would guess at the minimum.
Okay,
80,
so let's talk.
85.
Let's talk about the 80 do you have a program that size in your community?
Oh yeah, we've got.
Okay,
several.
I'm going to do the math. I'm going to pull up my calculator.
Good, because
right.
I don't have. My son borrowed my calculator, so I can't help.
Okay, so we've got 80 families, and so of those 80 families, do you think we got 70 people who work, 60 people who work? How many? Do we have 160 100?
Depending on the age, I would guess at least 15 people, to include the director,
No, no,
maybe
no. So, okay, we've got 80 families. So, are those two-parent families or one-parent families in your community?
depends. Primarily, my guess would be 70% one-parent families, 30% both. I'm just guessing. It
Okay,
depends.
okay. So if
And,
we guess, let's just say 120,
right,
120 adults are now able to work because of that childcare center.
because of that childcare, yes.
Okay, so we got 120 people going to work. Now, what do you think of the childcare centers of a program that size? 100. So you got one in your head, right? It's got 100
Right.
kids. It's got 120 people going to work. How much do you think they make a year?
Anywhere from 19,000 to 25. Go on the high end of 25,000 a year. I'm talking about the teachers, right?
Nope, I'm talking about the parents.
Oh, the parents. Oh, parents might be making anywhere from 35 to 60, maybe.
All right, well, let's go with 50. We'll make easy math.
Go in the middle. Okay.
Okay. So you got 120 parents that are working out of those 80 families. They're making $50,000 a year. So they're not even making a lot of money.
No.
So that childcare center, before you add their staff, before you add the owner, anybody else who might have a direct, that childcare center is responsible for $6 million into that community.
It's amazing.
That can't happen without the workforce behind the workforce, right?
This is true.
And we weren't talking elaborate numbers, right?
No,
We're talking
no. Very
120
basic.
people, right? So think about what one child care center is bringing in from a workforce development. Like they're bringing in $6 million into that community. I mean, we have to come up with a solution. And I think
And
kind of what you talked about, right? We got to change the whole system. But what
yeah,
can
we got to change the whole system. But one of the things that we did do, and we're still working on it because we haven't totally convinced them yet, but the thinking was our technological, the businesses, the big businesses like Boeing and Bosch and Volvo and the Mercedes and all of these guys that got mega bucks. My proposal or my thought when because we've had meetings with the business community through our Chamber of Commerce.
Absolutely. Ooh, love those chambers. Got to get them involved.
Exactly. And one of the things that I asked for, and this was prior to the actual meeting, I'd gone to a few of them and said, would you sponsor your families? They're already working for you.
Do you want them to stay working for you?
Thank you. And come up with a way that if their child's going to Miss Suki's childcare, X number of dollars, that it doesn't penalize them. It's not, taking it. It's kind of like having insurance to a degree. We put in and you know that your worker's not going to not come to work because their child's not being cared for.
Absolutely.
And you're supporting that childcare in addition to supporting the family, in addition to supporting yourself. And I put it out there, and when they told me initially, they said, no, because I originally wanted them to help to create a childcare on site so that their workers would have care.
Right.
I remember a while back listening to Google one time, and they talked about all the different aspects of humanism that worked in Google. Like they had a restaurant right there on the campus where all the workers could go eat, and it was nice and it was pretty. It wasn't just, a vending machine. And it talked about how the workers could come to work dressed in what was comfortable for them, so long as it didn't, aggravate the people that were around them. They talked about how they had that room where, when the stress got real bad, you could go in that room and for a few minutes, you put this thing on your head and you could sit and you could relax and, go away. It talked about the fact that they were letting the children come to the childcare that was at Google. I'm sorry, but when that kind of environment is happening in the workplace, you have a longer workforce. They stay with you longer. They're more productive because they're not concerned and they know that the business cares about them. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying just for the big, all businesses should do that. I'm the leader of a staff. When my staff isn't feeling good, I'm not feeling good.
Yeah.
And I'll tell them in a minute, go take care of you. Because I would rather you come back healthy and whole and ready and sound and, put out. Because all you got to do is make me look good at the end of the year. That's all I'm asking. Make me do what you got to do, take care of you, and get the job done. That's the mentality. But there seems to be more of a punitive kind of thing, I think, with staff because I guess, integrity kicks in there. But I think you can help develop integrity if you treat people like humans. You treat them the way you want to be treated. And when we do that, you're going to get more benefit. You're going to have more productive workers. Your production is going to go up. You're going to have more money to give back to your community a little bit by providing the child care and the atmosphere that the children are first. Let's talk about how, some people back in the day, we tended to do what our parents did. I mean, taking care of the children now might be building your workforce for the future.
Absolutely. I mean,
just the thought.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. And one of the things, so if folks are listening to this podcast and you're thinking, well, that sounds great. They can do that in South Carolina or, those places where there's big employers.
I'm still working on it. So,
well, I think what's really important to know is that there is a U.S. Chamber of Commerce and that the U.S. Chamber of Commerce has actually convened their own child care groups. And they're doing this on a national level of trying to figure out how to help chambers have these conversations in their community. So
wonderful.
If you're listening and you didn't already know that, then go do some research. Go look up the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Go look up U.S. Chamber of Commerce Child Care, and you'll get that group's information because we have to think about the individually private owned child care center, because I don't want to call them small businesses, because if you are a child care center taking care of anywhere from 50 to 100 kids, that means you are impacting those communities by somewhere between $3 and $6 million. That is not a small business.
Mm-hmm. That's okay? Not.
And
they're giving back to their community,
and it's right there. Yeah. So go show up
and it spills over into all the other businesses too, like the restaurants and the laundromat.
Well, people go spend that $6 million. That's part of why we talk about it from that perspective is you've now generated $6 million that are going to be spent in your community, and that's where I love to take it a step further and try to get those people to learn to shop local, and that doesn't mean not shopping at your local, franchise.
Right.
But
if the big box stores,
but think about, is that a franchise or is that a big box, right? Like, so is it corporate owned? Are you supporting a corporate owned or are you supporting a local business owner, even if it's a franchise? Anyway, right? So
in my end, the Dorchester end of Somerville and St. George, Harleyville, Ridgeville, I'm naming them all. They're going to all be famous. Now, we don't need anybody else to move into the area though, but we do follow our local businesses, our family. I call them the mom and pop shops.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing irritates me more, although on some level, I guess we need it. But when I see this happening, it means that more people are coming. And when more people comes, we got more issues. But the mom and pops are here on this end of the street, and then the big ticketed places built. Like right now, we had a mom and pop's gas station that was right at the corner. We crossed the railroad tracks, turn right, bam, there it was. It's been there for eons, okay? You can get boiled peanuts, okay? That's the kind of place it is. And you can sit and talk to folk, okay? And the food trucks come and center around the perimeter so you can go over and get different things because it's the mom and pop. Well, just recently, right now, they're building one of those high-tech gas stations right next door. And on some level, they're going to, because, people are going to flock there because it's new and it's got all the, it's not one of them big ones, but it's big enough for at least 10 cars, 10 or more cars to get gas at the same time. But what it does is it changes the community.
Mhm.
And that mom and pop, I'm wondering what's going to happen with them. My
Well,
heart is there.
hopefully we've got other folks that are listening to this episode that are also going to start thinking about how can I collaborate with those mom and pops in my community? How can I drive my own business traffic there? I know that the Sam's Clubs and the Walmarts are cheaper, but have you had a conversation with your local grocery store and said, "Hey, could you give me a deal on my paper products if I buy them from you? Because I don't really want to buy them from Sam's Club and I don't want to
Exactly.
buy them from Costco. I want to buy them from you." And that's the advantage of as a child care center getting involved in your local chamber of commerce. And you know what? It doesn't have to just be you, and it shouldn't just be you. Get your staff to go. Heck, get your parents to go. Because if you've got your parents going to chamber of commerce functions promoting you,
There you go.
you look like the bee's knees because you have got your parents now involved in the community. So, boy,
Exactly.
didn't we just go in all kinds of circles today?
Of
So,
course, and that's typically what I do. Sorry.
yeah, when you asked me, what are we going to talk about? I said, I have no idea. We'll see where the conversation leads. So hopefully, if you have listened to this episode, there was something new. You got to take some notes and make sure that you share the show with someone who needs to know. And we look forward to bringing Crystal back. We'll probably bring Crystal back, I'm guessing maybe in February or March. And with
I would
that,
love I would love to come back because I still want to talk about loneliness and our social and emotional development. All of that's a piece of this,
I
So
know we could, like I said, we could talk all day, and
yes.
literally, we usually try to keep it to 20 minutes, and you've already got me at 32.
Oh, I'm
So,
so sorry. I didn't know it was 20 minutes. I was thinking an hour, Kate. Sorry.
oh, that's okay. We could go an hour, but I'm not sure I can split that into 3. So,
Yeah, no
with
problem.
that,
No
thank you so
problem.
much, Crystal, for joining us.
Thank
And
you.
folks, don't forget to come back in a few days, and we'll talk to you then.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in. We love bringing you real talk and fresh insight from the world of early childhood education. Be sure to follow us on social media to stay connected and catch all of the latest episodes. And if you're planning a conference, training, or special event, Kate and Carrie would love to speak to your audience. You can learn more about their keynote sessions and workshops at kateandcarrie.com. If you learned something today, share the show and leave us a review below. We'll see you next time on Childcare Conversations.